Please turn off all cellular devices and electronic devices. Family members and guests, the 132nd commencement of SDSU Processional will begin. At the conclusion of the ceremony, those in attendance are asked to please be respectful and stay seated until all students have been recognized as graduates and the platform party has recessed from the stage. Thank you for your cooperation. Ladies and gentlemen, introducing the 2018 graduating class from South Dakota State University. Founded in 1881 as the state's Morrill Act land-grant institution, South Dakota State University improves quality of life through exemplary teaching, relevant research, and connected outreach. Today's graduates represent a broad range of academic disciplines, some traced to the university's earliest days and others developed in response to the needs of the state and the region. Under the leadership of Dean Nancy Fahrenwald, candidates in the College of Nursing are led by their banner carrier, Instructor Jody Ness. Under the leadership of Dean Lewis Brown, candidates in the Jerome J. Lohr College of Engineering are led by their banner carrier, Professor Fierdun Delphanian. Under the leadership of Interim Dean Mary Kay Helling, members of the University College are represented by their banner carrier, Instructor Amy Peterson. Under the leadership of Dean Rebecca Bach-Knudsen, members of the Band D and Barbara B. Fishback Honors College are represented by their banner carrier, Professor Dan Kemp. Under the leadership of Dean John Killiford, candidates in the College of Agriculture and Biological Sciences are led by their banner carrier, Assistant Department Head and Distinguished Professor Doug Malo. Under the leadership of Provost Dennis Hedge, faculty are led by marshals, Assistant Department Head and Professor Donna Flint and Professor Cody Wright, and by their banner carrier, Professor Yujan Wu. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please stand? Under the leadership of President Barry Dunn, the platform party is led by Honorary Marshals, Distinguished Professor William Gibbons and Associate Professor Thomas Stenvig. The mace carried by William Gibbons signifies the authority and pageantry of academic ceremonies. Honorary Marshals lead the processional in recognition of distinguished service to the university. Information about today's speakers and Honorary Marshals is printed in your program. Distinguished Professor William Gibbons has served as professor since 1997. He is recognized by his peers as a leader in and critical contributor in applied microbiology and biotechnology, specifically in biofuels. In the past 4 years, he has garnered more than $5 million in research funding. Thomas Stenvig, Associate Professor of Nursing, has served SDSU since 2001. He is the only nurse from South Dakota to be elected to the American Nurses Association Board and has been president of the South Dakota Nurses Foundation since its founding in 1999. In 2016, he was inducted into the South Dakota Nurses Hall of Fame. President Dunn, Regent Roberts, distinguished guests, members of the faculty, administrative leadership at the university, graduates, family, and friends of the graduates, and ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you to the 2018 commencement ceremony of South Dakota State University, which will now be in order. Please remain standing for the presentation of colors by the Army ROTC cadets Jessup Workman and Blake Hess, and Air Force ROTC cadets Ben Williams and Wade Olson, the Eagle staff by Freddie Moran, United States Infantry veteran, and the playing of our national anthem by the Symphonic Band. Please remain standing until the colors are posted and the anthem finished. You may be seated. Please welcome the President of South Dakota State University, Barry H. Dunn.
Good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure to serve as the 20th President of South Dakota State University and to welcome you to the university's 132nd commencement. Thank you for being part of this very special day of recognition and celebration. More than 1,300 undergraduate students have completed degree requirements during the spring semester, bringing the total number of undergraduate degrees conferred this academic year to more than 2,000. This morning's ceremony is for students receiving an associate or a baccalaureate degree in the College of Nursing, the Jerome J. Lohr College of Engineering, and the College of Agriculture and Biological Sciences. Students receiving associate or baccalaureate degrees in the College of Pharmacy and Allied Health Professions, the College of Education and Human Sciences, the College of Arts and Sciences, will be recognized at the 2 p.m. undergraduate ceremony later this afternoon. Students receiving master's degrees, Doctor of Philosophy degrees, Doctor of Nursing Practice, or Doctor of Pharmacy degrees will be recognized in the graduate ceremony at 5 p.m. this afternoon. As you can imagine, an event like this relies on the collaboration and efforts of many people, so I'd like to briefly recognize a few of them now. The ROTC Color Guard, Assistant Department Head and Professor of Mathematics and Statistics, Donna Flint, and Professor of Animal Science, Cody Wright, who served as faculty marshals, assisting the students and faculty in the processional this morning. And the Symphonic Band under the direction of Jacob Wallace, Assistant Professor of Music, and Kevin Kessler, Director of Athletic Bands. Please help me in thanking them for their contributions to this very special day. I also want to thank our honorary marshals who were introduced earlier, Dr. William Gibbons and Dr. Thomas Stenvig. Will you please step forward? And please join me in recognizing them as well. It is now my pleasure to introduce those members of the platform party participating in today's ceremony who will not be introduced later in the program. I ask them to stand and be recognized. Please hold your applause until all have been introduced. Interim Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences, Jason Zimmerman. Jill Thorngren, Dean of the College of Education and Human Sciences. Jane Mort, Dean of the College of Pharmacy and Allied Health Professions. Interim Dean of University College and Vice Provost Mary K. Helling. Chief University Librarian and Acting Dean of the Van D. and Barbara B. Fishback Honors College, Christy Tornquist. Vice President for Finance and Business, Wes Cheddar. Vice President for Research and Economic Development, Dr. Daniel Scholl. I would also like to recognize and thank all the parents and friends and loved ones who are here to share this special day with today's graduates. You have provided your support and encouragement in countless ways over these past years. Members of the graduating class of 2018, please rise to recognize and thank your parents, friends, and loved ones for their support, and you give them a round of applause. Please rise. Let them know how much you appreciate them. You can be seated. We are honored today to have Brian Hefty, CEO at Hefty Seed Company, here to share a message with the graduates. Brian Hefty is a 1990 graduate from SDSU and today is a farmer and agronomist from Baltic, South Dakota. Since 1998, he and his brother Darren have co-hosted Ag PhD TV, the nation's most watched agronomy television show. The brothers also host the most listened to ag radio program in the United States, Ag PhD Radio. Hefty Seed now has 43 stores in 12 states and is the nation's 9th largest crop protection retailer and number 10 in seed sales. Brian has served a variety of roles in his community in the past, including with the Federal Reserve Bank's Ag Advisory Council. Please help me welcome Brian to the podium.
Thank you. When my brother Darren and I were growing up on the farm, our dad would tell us, boys, if you want to be successful on the farm someday, you've got to find jobs that'll pay you $100 an hour or more and do those jobs yourself and pay someone else to do the $5 an hour jobs. Now, yes, I hear the laughter already. You can imagine who was doing Dad's $5 an hour jobs then. Anyway, I am here today to talk about these $100 an hour jobs. And yes, Darren and I were doing the $5 an hour jobs. We were the ones who were scooping hog manure every morning and every night. We were the guys mowing the lawn, painting the fence, hauling the garbage, jobs that at the time you could have hired anyone off the street for $5 an hour to do. So today we're going to talk about how to find jobs and how to do jobs that pay $100 an hour or more. There are three big things I need you to understand. First, you live in a land of opportunity. Second, you're going to have to work long and hard if you want to get those $100 an hour jobs. And third, $100 an hour jobs go to positive thinkers. Be positive always. One of the things I always encourage people to do is travel the world a little bit. I've been to a lot of foreign countries, and all I can tell you is most of the time when I get home, I am so happy to be here I could about kiss the ground. I just want to tell you a couple of stories. First, when I was in Japan, I found out that they literally have people whose job is to push you into trains. That's their job, seriously. There are so many people, they have to pack you into the trains to get you where you want to go. Now, fortunately, as an ugly American, I always had a little space around me. But I want you to think about how would you like to live like that, getting pushed and packed into trains every day just to travel around, even to your work. In Brazil, people were frustrated because the government kept granting bids for things like road repairs and airport upgrades, but contractors kept running off with the money before the jobs got done. Do you know that when I was there 11 years ago, in the Brazilian state of Mato Grosso, which is as big as the Dakotas, Minnesota, Iowa, Nebraska, it's this enormous state, they had literally 5 paved roads. 5. In Ukraine, imagine the worst 2-lane highways you've ever seen or ever driven on. Well, I was with a guy whose only job was to drive people around, and we were going, and I'm not kidding, 100 miles an hour down these little roads, rough, couldn't believe it, and I'm just holding on in the back seat going, please, God, don't let me die in Ukraine. And so we're driving along, and we come up over a hill, flashing lights, police checkpoint. And I just thought, oh, thank you, God, my prayers have been answered. Now this guy's finally going to slow down, and you know what? He might even go to jail, he was going so fast. Nope. He got out, bribed the policeman $10, got off with no ticket, and found out where the next checkpoint was. In Israel, I was on a large farm, and I pointed out how a flag the farmer had was pretty tattered. And he goes, yeah, that's where a missile hit it. And I said, a missile? Yup, we're only about 6 miles from the Gaza Strip, and occasionally the Palestinians, they'll just launch some random missiles over here. That one actually blew up my workers' barracks. And I said, oh my goodness, I mean, was somebody killed? Or, and he goes, oh, no. There's only one person that was it was in the middle of the day. One person was in there because they'd called in sick. And then he's kind of joking about it. He goes, yeah, but you know what? It wasn't all that bad because ever since then, I haven't had a single guy call in sick. As I tell you these stories, I should mention that the average household in Brazil makes about $5,000 per year. In Ukraine, the average household makes $1,000 per year. That's it. So, when you stop and think about it, we're just so fortunate to be able to live and work here in the greatest country in the world, where instead of opportunity, instead of safety, we're here today talking about $100 an hour jobs. How many times already in your life have you said, this job isn't very important, so I'm not going to work hard, or I'm kind of tired, so I'm not going to work hard, or this job doesn't pay very well, or I don't like my boss, or I don't like my coworkers, I hate this job, I'm not going to work hard. Well, I can tell you right now that if you don't work hard, you'll never be successful. You need to condition yourself for the super important things by working hard at everything else. My favorite verse in the Bible is Colossians 3:23. It says, whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as if working for the Lord, not for men. Let me say it again. Colossians 3:23, whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as if working for the Lord, not for men. Just think about this for a second. Let's say that God himself was your boss. God comes down from heaven just to be your boss at, say, McDonald's. Okay, if he told you to do something, would you do it? If he told you to work harder, would you work harder? You see where I'm going with this. That's the whole point. If you want to someday get the $100 an hour job, you've got to have the mindset that no one can outwork you at anything. Do you need to be super smart to work hard? Nope. Do you need to be super talented to work hard? No. Whether you got A's here or C's at SDSU or even D's or hopefully not F's, but no matter what, that has no bearing on your ability to work hard. My dad always told us kids, boys, if you want to be successful, that's never going to happen if you only work 40 hours a week. And as I heard that, and I remember being in college too, and I'm like, oh no, I only want to work a little bit and be rich, right? Isn't that kind of our goal? Well, guess what? It just doesn't work that way. I've been the boss at our office for almost 25 years, and even as the boss, I'm still working 60 or 70 hours a week. If you want to be great, you've got to work hard at it. You've got to put the time in. And let's talk about what this $100 an hour job thing is really all about. It's just time management. It's about prioritizing. My suggestion for you is to put God first, then family, then work, then everything else. Playing Fortnite probably isn't going to get you ahead in your job, even though I may have played last night. And it's probably not going to get you closer to God or your family, so at least make sure that's down at the bottom of your list, okay? So finally, if you want this $100 an hour job, you need to always take personal responsibility for everything and stay positive. Look, everyone's going to have bad things happen. When I was in high school, my mom passed away from leukemia. I've failed at all kinds of things. It's okay to be sad for a little while, but it's not okay to start feeling sorry for yourself, and it's definitely not okay to blame others. Pick yourself up and move on. Just understand that every day the world is going to try to drag you down. Every day you're going to hear negative things. Every day you may be told you can't do it. You're not smart enough. You're not talented enough. You're not capable. That's ridiculous. Quit listening to all that garbage. For example, I work in agriculture, and every day I get emails and social media posts saying agriculture is bad. Agriculture is poisoning the earth. We should all go organic, and that GMOs and pesticides should never be used. What a bunch of nonsense. Almost all the pesticides we have today are extremely safe to humans, and many are just natural products. Did you know that the most popular corn herbicide comes from a tree? The callistemon tree. Did you know the most popular insecticide comes from the chrysanthemum flower? Roundup works on an enzyme found only in plants. There's no possible physical way the active ingredient, glyphosate, is ever going to hurt a human being. GMOs actually have health benefits, and no GMO has ever killed anyone in the history of the world. On our farm, there's no product we use on our crops that's even half as dangerous as many of the household cleaners you have right below your kitchen sink. Now, I know you are often told by farming experts like Dr. Oz and Oprah that modern agriculture is bad, but modern agriculture is amazing, safe, and feeding our exploding world population. Here in the United States, we have the safest, healthiest, least expensive, and most abundant food supply in the world. That's thanks to the American farmer. I was just talking to a big company in agriculture a few weeks ago, and their line was this. They said, the next time you see a farmer, thank him or her, because without farmers, we would be naked, hungry, and sober. I hope you can see how passionate I am about agriculture. Here's my point. When the world's trying to drag you down, you've got to stay positive and keep pushing forward. Surround yourself with good people and keep marching ahead doing what you know is right. So today we've talked about working hard, putting in the hours, and staying positive. Do those things and you can get the $100 an hour job. Now your question is probably, Brian, what are these $100 an hour jobs you keep talking about? Look, each person here today is unique. You have, for example, on the farm, you may have the choice to run a tile plow today, fix a fence today, or mow the lawn today. Which one is the $100 an hour job? Sure, it's a lot easier to go mow the lawn or fix the fence, but I figure on our farm, running the tile plow probably pays about $300 an hour. That's the one I would like to do. I can hire anyone off the street to fix the fence or mow the lawn for $15 an hour. In every business, there are certain actions that make the business lots of money. There are also plenty of actions that make the business no money or cost the business money. The fact of the matter is this, whether you're an employee or a business owner, your job is to figure out which task makes the business the most money and do that as much as you can. As an employee, the more you do these things, the more money the business makes, and in turn, the more money you're going to make over time. Now, what happens in life is people often say, I don't like my job. They quit, go to work somewhere else, and never become so excellent or proficient at anything that they can make that business hundreds of thousands of dollars. What I've learned in life is you will love what you're great at. If you dedicate yourself to being the best at something, you're going to become respected pretty soon. You're going to realize how important that job is and how much you really enjoy it. Oh, by the way, $100 an hour jobs is not just about money. It's simply about doing what's important in life. I'm married, and I can just tell you, for all you husbands in the audience, when your wife needs you to do something, that's a $100 an hour job. Parents, being there for your kids, that's a $100 an hour job. Thank you for being here today, by the way. Now, graduates, I've got 3 more quick pieces of advice I'm going to give you based on what I've seen young people in our operation do over the years. Here are the 3 most common mistakes you can make financially in your 20s. Number 1, buying a fancy car. Now, I know you may want to look cool, but get a used car and pay cash, trust me. Number 2, living too far away from work. I always tell our people to live within 10 minutes of the office. That way you have more hours you can work, more hours you can play Fortnite, and more hours you're going to get paid, right? And also, when you live close to work, you're going to have more free time, less drive time, and you save money on gas. And number 3, not investing heavily in a 401k. Fortunately, my dad pushed me when I was 22 years old. He said, you have to do this. So I'm going to tell you the same thing today. My advice to you is max out your 401k every year, starting this year with your first job. Put at least 10% of your wages every year in a 401k, starting right away. I know it seems like a lot, but do it. Trust me, by the time you retire, you're going to be I want to congratulate you on what you've accomplished so far in your life and here at SDSU. Great job. Now, let me leave you with this. 28 years ago, I was sitting out there in the audience here at Frost Arena, just like you are today. It's hard for me to believe that was 28 years ago. Time goes really fast. Appreciate every day. Make your life what you want it to be. You have tremendous talent and ability. You have boatloads of opportunity. Make the most of it, and good luck finding your $100 an hour job. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. We very much appreciate your remarks.
Thanks.
The South Dakota Board of Regents Policy 218 describes an honorary doctorate degree as its highest honor bestowed upon individuals who have achieved distinction in their professions and have rendered outstanding contribution or service to the people of South Dakota, among other criteria. South Dakota State University has a long tradition of awarding honorary degrees, and Marcella LeBeau certainly meets those qualifications. Also known by her Lakota name, Wignaka Wasta Win, Pretty Rainbow Woman, Marcella LeBeau's accomplishments as a leader and as a registered nurse have spanned over 7 decades and have contributed to the health and well-being of diverse populations of people, including World War II soldiers during her military career and the Lakota people of the Cheyenne River Sioux tribe. Marcella completed a diploma in nursing at St. Mary's Hospital in Pierre in 1942. Her career as a registered nurse began with a hospital position in the state of Michigan. However, that quickly changed when Marcella willingly embraced the call to service in the United States Army Nurse Corps during World War II. Her fortitude and courage as a World War II nurse was recognized with the awarding of 6 highly distinguished medals, including the French Legion Medal of Honor, awarded in France in 2004 at the 60th anniversary of D-Day. A passion for humanitarian service continued for Marcella. After returning as a veteran of World War II, she married and raised 8 children, yet she served our country and her people for 31 years through the Indian Health Service. Not only did Marcella provide high-quality health care to patients and families, she eventually became the director of nursing at the Eagle Butte Hospital and was highly regarded as a role model by all the members of the healthcare team, as well as IHS leaders. She inspired many young people to pursue a career in nursing and to follow in her footsteps. Marcella's interest in the health of her people didn't stop with her professional role as a nurse. She was elected to the Cheyenne River Sioux Tribal Council and served for 4 years, from 1991 to 1995. She's highly regarded for her health policy leadership, leading to the passage of a smoke-free policy in the tribal chambers, and her advocacy for wellness and health promotion inspired many subsequent leaders. And in 2015, the Cheyenne River Sioux tribe became the first in the state of South Dakota to pass a Smoke-Free Air Act. Marcella has been honored as an inductee into the South Dakota Hall of Fame. In 2016, she received the Women in History Award from the Spirit of the Prairie chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution. I asked Provost Dennis Hedge and Nancy Farrenwald, Dean of the College of Nursing, to assist me in the following presentation. Today, for outstanding contributions to our nation, the state of South Dakota, and our university, it is my great honor to confer on Marcella LeBeau an honorary doctorate of public service degree. The university takes pride in all its graduates, but faculty and administrators take special pride in those who have achieved high levels of academic excellence. I welcome to the podium Provost Hedge, who will recognize those students graduating with academic honors. Provost Hedge.
Earning a degree takes hard work and commitment. A special group of graduates deserve extra recognition today. These students have reached the highest levels of academic achievement. The program notes those members of this year's class whose academic achievements have earned them the distinction of graduating with honors, as well as those who are graduating from the Van D. and Barbara B. Fishback Honors College. In addition, South Dakota State University initiates students into the National Honor Society of Phi Kappa Phi. Members are elected from every branch of the arts, sciences, humanities, and the professional colleges. Only those in the top 10% of their senior class are eligible for election to Phi Kappa Phi. This morning, we recognize those who have achieved this high scholastic record. Will all graduates who are graduating with honors, those graduating with honors college distinction, and those who have joined Phi Kappa Phi, please stand to be recognized. Thank you. You may be seated. We also have students from across the colleges who have prepared to become teachers. Will those graduates who have completed teacher education curriculum for certification as teachers please rise to be recognized as well? Thank you. It is now my pleasure to introduce Lieutenant Colonel Corey Norris, Professor of Military Science for Army ROTC, and Lieutenant Colonel Brian Schroeder, Professor of Air Force Studies for Air Force ROTC. They will recognize the candidates for commission. Lieutenant Colonels.
Thank you. Please join us in recognizing the following graduates who were commissioned as second lieutenants in the United States Army or the United States Air Force at commissioning ceremonies held yesterday. Lieutenants, please stand and remain standing until all names have been called. Please hold your applause until all the names have been called. Some of these individuals will be participating in a commencement ceremony later today. From the Army, Trina Baker, Kaylee Buckles, Alex DeWald, Jonathan Heckman, George Horrocks, Scott Schladweiler, and Nicole Severson.
For the Air Force, Chandler Bauer, Emily Johnson, John Jordan, Cole Jorgensen, Tyler Joyle, Jared Newharth, Gerald Peden, Nathan Schilvach, and Mason Walker. Please join me in congratulating our future leaders in the Armed Forces.
Andy Folberg is a 1999 graduate of South Dakota State and president and CEO of South Dakota State University Alumni Association. Ms. Folberg will bring greetings to the graduates as they transition from students to alumni. Andy?
Thank you, President Dunn. We're different heights. Good morning, graduates. It is an honor to be here with you today and officially welcome you as you join over 90,000 individuals who have graduated from this institution. Your hard work and achievements have led you to this day, and we are very proud to have you as part of the growing alumni family. Today, you ring the bell for the yellow and blue as you enter the next phase of your life as a jackrabbit. We at the South Dakota State University Alumni Association are excited to welcome you to the alumni ranks as you join a growing list of staters who continue to lead their chosen industries and communities. This is a very special place. The people here have prepared you to do great things, and we can't wait to hear about them. Congratulations again to each and every one of you on a job well done. When many of you arrived on campus as freshmen a few years ago, you attended Fall Convocation. At this event, you were given a unique coin. On the coin are the words, "Once a student, forever an alum." You were then encouraged to take the coin, drop it in a giant cowbell, and make a wish for your college career. Today, we'd like to think that you received your wish. After receiving your diploma today, each member of the graduating class will receive this coin from a member of the Alumni Association staff. We promised you that we would return that coin to you, and today we fulfill that promise. And yes, obviously, it is the same exact coin. As you walk across this stage, you will be closing a chapter of your life, but at the same time, you will be opening another. As you leave this place as a student, remember that no matter where you go, no matter what you do, you will always be a member of the South Dakota State University family. We at the Alumni Association are very proud of you and look forward to helping you stay connected to your alma mater and hope you will visit often. Today and forevermore, you are Jackrabbits. Congratulations, graduates, and best of luck to you all.
Thank you, Andy. Vice President for Student Affairs, Michaela Willis, will now introduce this year's graduating senior speaker. Michaela?
An important part of our commencement ceremonies is the opportunity for a member of the graduating class to address the gathering. I am pleased to introduce Jacob Gubrud as this year's senior speaker, a spring 2018 graduate who will offer remarks on behalf of this year's graduates. From Cedar Falls, Iowa, Jacob has made SDSU home for the past 4 years and has taken an active effort to be involved. During his time at South Dakota State, he has been active in the Van D. and Barbara B. Fishback Honors College and had the opportunity to travel to the Galapagos Islands, Ireland, and will depart for Indonesia following graduation. Upon graduation, Gubrud will enter the workforce as an electrical engineer for Burns and McDonnell in Kansas City, Missouri, where he has completed 2 internships and has had a job offer since July of 2017. Beyond his academic work, he has been active in the fraternity Sigma Phi Epsilon and prides himself in being part of the group that brought the first Sexual Assault Awareness Week to campus. Please join me in welcoming Jacob Gubrud.
Well, we made it. Give yourselves a pat on the back. My name is Jacob Gubrud, although many of you in the audience today know me as Gooby, and I stand here today as the proud great-grandson of a former governor of South Dakota, the proud grandson of a former SDSU professor, and a proud jackrabbit. I'm not sure how I ended up getting the privilege of speaking with you today, and I think this uncertainty stems from the fact that I'm an electrical engineering major, which means I'm not supposed to be able to talk to people. So bear with me, I guess. I'd like to take a quick moment that enabled me to communicate as an engineer and got all of us to where we are today. Administrators, faculty, family, friends, thank you. While at SDSU, I've had the privilege of being involved in a variety of great organizations, studying abroad, and participating in undergraduate research. One organization that is truly for me as a balanced man is Sigma Phi Epsilon. Sigma Phi Epsilon is a fraternity with many notable alumni, including one of whom I'll be centering much of my speech today. His name was Theodore Geisel, although you probably know him as Dr. Seuss. Although Dr. Seuss is known for writing children's books, the Dartmouth graduate was also full of profound wisdom that helps us reflect on our college experience as we prepare to head into that scary place known as the real world. The first Dr. Seuss quote I want to reflect on, from his book, Oh, the Places You'll Go, says this, and makes me think of freshman year. You have brains in your head, You have feet in your shoes. You can steer yourself any direction you choose. The day we first sat in this arena as incoming students, we all had the opportunity to face this quote head on. That first year, we searched for the right major, made countless friends, ate lots of Chick-fil-A, and learned what being a jackrabbit was all about. We learned that being a jackrabbit means striving to do our best academically, forming relationships with wonderful faculty, getting involved in countless clubs, and walking countless circles in rotunda trying to find the right room. That first year on campus significantly shaped who we are today and laid the foundation for a great college experience. This leads to my next Dr. Seuss quote, which I think embodies what our middle years of college were all about. It's better to know how to learn than to know. I think this is true now more than ever in the digital age in which we live, where we get information overload every time we swipe to unlock our phones. Our faculty members and club advisors taught us to pay attention to relevant information. They taught us to problem solve, critically think, and constructively discuss world problems. In those middle years, they let us dive deeper in math, nursing, agriculture, biology, engineering, and so much more. We were given a powerful set of tools to become successful leaders in our communities, employees in our workforces, and parents in our homes. It is now our responsibility to apply these lessons to make the world a better place for our generation and future generations. In those middle years, we stopped eating so much Chick-fil-A as we moved off campus. We learned where all the classrooms were in rotunda, and we learned what it was like to live in a house or apartment with those close to us. Unless you became a CA, in which case, props to you for handling the many shenanigans of the dorms and showing those living there the ropes. I think this next quote is relevant to our senior or super senior year. Sometimes you will never know the value of a moment until it becomes a memory. Now, I know what you're all thinking. You could very easily look at your student loans and show me what the value of college was. But I don't think any of us, including myself, realize the priceless value of the lessons we've learned and education we've earned. Senior year brings us all to a point where we find ourselves looking back on the path that got us to where we are and looking forward to what we get to do next. I think back to the cold, windy day I was walking to Hanson Hall, and the wind caused my eyes to water, only to have those tears frozen to my face, epitomizing what South Dakota weather is all about. We all think of the great times we had during Hobo Week, the many nights we spent studying, and the many friends who sit alongside us throughout the journey. What a journey it has been. Now comes the hardest part of my speech, addressing the future. I could pretend to impart wisdom to you, but that would be presumptuous, since I also have much to learn. But the words of Dr. Seuss are wise. You're on your own, and you know what you know, and you are the one who will decide where to go. Whether it's continuing education, heading to the place where you've already accepted a job, or taking some years off to figure out what's next, the future is going to come. Our futures will doubtlessly be full of failures, successes, tears, and fears. But here's the thing. None of us fully know where we're headed. The beauty of this is that we all get to learn the art of adulting through making mistakes and failing. And that's okay. Don't ever forget that. It is okay to fail. In the words of the great electrical engineer Thomas Edison, I have not failed, I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. For him, it was pursuing his goal of inventing the light bulb. For you, it may be pursuing a career or your first promotion. Know that because one door closes, another, even better door may open. Take your failures as lessons and rejoice in your successes. You'll be better for it. The last Dr. Seuss quote I want to discuss from his book, The Lohr is this: unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing's going to get better. It's not. I quote that passage with this in mind. We are soon to be alumni of a fantastic academic institution. We get to go make money now. Yeah. What are we going to do with this money? We'll pay for shelter, cars, food, and other necessities. We'll go to sports games, travel the world, maybe go to concerts. Yet, even more opportunities will come calling. I encourage you to consider giving money, time, or other resources to your favorite charities, causes, and your alma mater. In short, to be civic-minded. You wouldn't be sitting where you are today without the generosity of those that came before you. So I encourage you to be generous in turn. Go out into the world and show the world how jackrabbits strive to make the world a better place. Now, many of you won't remember this speech tomorrow, next week, or the years to come. But if there's one thing I want you to take with you when you walk out of Frost today, it's this. Every day is a great day to be a Jackrabbit. And with that in mind, I'd like your help to conclude my speech in true Jackrabbit fashion. I think you'll know what to do when the time comes. Go big, go blue, go Jazz.
Thank you, Jacob. I am pleased to invite the Honorable Pam Roberts of the South Dakota Board of Regents to the podium to authorize the conferral of degrees.
Good morning. I'm really excited to be here today, and I need to, first of all, just one-up our speaker, because it was 40 years ago that I was sitting in the chairs here at Frost Arena and received my Bachelor of Science degree from SDSU. You know, when I came here as a freshman, I crossed paths with an upperclassman, an older guy, who is now Barry Dunn, who is now our president. And crossing that path and being on this stage together today is really an exciting time for me. You know, 2 years ago, it was my first official vote of the South Dakota Board of Regents was to hire Barry Dunn. And I'm so excited to have him as our new president, actually 2 years into it now. So my point with this story is just, with a college degree from SDSU, your opportunities are really unlimited. I want to congratulate you today, give you our best wishes on behalf of the Board of Regents, and by the authority vested in me as a member of the South Dakota Board of Regents, I now authorize Dr. Barry Dunn, President of South Dakota State University, to award the degrees recommended. Graduates, my best wishes to each of you, and have a great celebration.
Thank you, Regent Roberts. The candidates for the associate and bachelor's degrees will be presented by a member of the Faculty Senate, Professor Kay Cutler.
The candidates for the associate and bachelor degrees will be, the students whose names appear in the printed program for this commencement have been approved by the faculty of South Dakota State University and the South Dakota Board of Regents to receive the Bachelor of Arts, the Bachelor of General Studies, the Bachelor of Music Education, the Bachelor of Science, and the associate degrees upon satisfactory completion of the degree requirements. Will those who will receive these degrees please stand? President Dunn, I take great pleasure in presenting these candidates to you in order that you may confer upon them the appropriate degree in their respective fields.
Yeah, that's you guys. Thank you, Dr. Cutler. By virtue of the authority delegated to me by the Board of Regents of Higher Education of the state of South Dakota, I confer upon each of you the degree Bachelor of Arts, Bachelors of General Studies, Bachelor of Music Education, Bachelor of Fine Arts, Bachelor of Landscape Architecture, Bachelor of Science, or Associate of Arts and Associate of Science in your chosen field upon satisfactory completion of the degree requirements with all the rights, privileges, and the responsibilities pertaining thereto. The candidates for these degrees will now present themselves to the stage for recognition. You will come forward by college and be congratulated by the dean of your college. Those of you waiting for your college to be called, please be seated. Individual graduates will be announced by Don Marshall, Associate Dean for Agriculture and Biological Sciences. Nancy Farrenwald, Dean of the College of Nursing, will introduce the graduates of the College of Nursing.
President Dunn, graduates of the College of Nursing are prepared as professional nurses to meet the health and healthcare needs of diverse people across the state, the region, the nation, and the world.
Madison Agee. Katie Anderson. Samantha Anderson. Maria Allen. Christy Beatty. Callie Barse. Joshua Byer. Ellie Benson. Cade Berry. Emily Bull. Emily Borkert. Nolan Bostic. Miranda Carlson. Olivia Braniff. Kayla Bresky. Cassandra Bunkers. Brianne Christensen. Cole Cooper. Kayla Diermeyer. Savannah Dolezal. Ellen Ellefson. Callie Evans. Delaney Fanslaw. Christina Ferguson. Natalie Fielstra. Amy Gatsey. Marcus Goodfellow. Carly Goodhart. Austin Green. Macy Gunderson. Ashton Hawk. Rachel Halber. Charles Harmon. Samantha Heron. Rachel Henselin. Samantha Hughes. Kayla Jaquez. Kelsey Jaquez. Brooke Johnson. Shelby Johnson. Taylor Johnson. Tyler Joyal. Joseph Keene. Nicole Kepler. Laura Clout. Camille Klima. Kinsey Knobloch. Danielle Knox. Mariah LaCroix. Monica Larson. Emma Lilleberg. Kira Loftusness. Alexandra Lunneborg, Kaylin Lunneborg, Mackenzie Mack, Kelsey Mayart, Justine Meendering, Riley Melhoff, Emily Mokel, Janae Paul, Justine Pascal, Shelby Remond, Keely Renchler, Sasha Roth, Beth Schloop, Camelia Schneider, Kellen Schultz, Allison Siver, Claire Snyder, Justin Stevens, Dylan Storm, Caitlin Salintek, Jennifer Svoboda, Morgan Tesla, Megan Thiesfeld, Jennifer Thiessen, Sierra Van Yperen, Peyton Vanderbrake, Abby Van Meteren, Jennifer Vipond, Marissa Weber, Jesselyn Weddy, Melinda Woods, Kaylee Wooten, and Allie Zeisky.
Thank you, Dean Farrenwald. Lewis Brown, Dean of the Jerome J. Lohr College of Engineering, will introduce the graduates of the Jerome J. Lohr College of Engineering.
President Dunn, the following graduates are prepared to improve our world by solving our most challenging problems in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics.
Seth Borboom, Brady Buck, Joshua Dom, Joseph DeBoer, Lucas Durdall, Joshua Fast, Seth Haig, Timothy Harder, Les Jelsma, Nicholas Klingenberg, Logan Noshall, Alexander Kepke, Kyle Kramer, Miranda LeBrun, Caleb Lang, Jared Newharth. Tyler Probst. Abigail Reppening. Justin Spees. Ryan Van Tassel. Ahmad Abu Amara. Ikab Al-Harbi. Abdullah Al-Jadani. Nathan Benson. Sanjay Bhutia. Jordan Brandon. Brady Brockel. Stephen Bunch. Deng Deng. Kate Ellis. Austin Ertime. Matthew Fry. Noel Harrington. Evan Henningsen. Benjamin Hogan. Shelley Iberg. Brian Kidd. Cameron Lanier. Matthew Lavoie. Emily Lawrenson. Jared Lee. Benjamin Lichty. Matthew Mazurek. Emily Meerdink. Benjamin Meyer. Pratik Madani. Marco Paulo Piera Castro. Logan Pickner. Kelly Skagura. Andrew Schrader. Michael Sewart. Allison Van Horn. Jonathan Westhoff. Cody Wasner. Alec Zamiga. Matthew Zobel. Zachary Aman. Michael Bailey. Chandler Bauer. Matthew Gallagher. Kenneth Grovenberg. Derek Haugen. Christopher Hendricks. Sai Baskar Raju Indukuri. Yuzhang Yang. Xiaozhu Jin. Elizabeth McLaughlin. Drake Olson. Mitchell Pettick. Afan Tariq. Christopher Tudhope. Zach Beitzel. Andrew Devney. Alexander DeWald. Megan Fear. Grant Galbraith. Chase Hall. Nathan Klein. Brendan Larson. Benjamin Mitchell. Dalen Metling. Taylor Pekarik. Cooper Scheffler. Andrew Scherf. Ethan Smith. Mark Sontag. Cordell Wobig. Heather Algrim. Zachary Andera. Aaron Bartz. John Clary. Aaron Decker. Jonathan Danoon. Matthew Danoon. Jacob Gubrud. Andrew Hildebrandt. Calvin Kieslas Jensen. Jacob Kirby. Elijah Maska. Theen Wian. Tyler Panek. Spencer Riddle. Keith Rolstad. Christopher Rumrill. Michael Safel. Ryan Steinkamp. Luke Stewart. Abdullah Al-Moskeen. Blake Arbogast. Nicholas Babcock. Nagabo Jindaju. Nathan Lax. Alec Whitcomb. Megan Odland. Wesley Bowen. Eric Ducosios. Kali Duke. Gabrielle Flores. Gavin Glenn. Bailey Jorgensen. Ollie Lacey. Katie Murtha. Samantha Nystrom. Jacob Olson. Thomas Patara. Jonathan Sachs. Stephanie Schmidt. Hussein Abu Amara. Sarah Albalushi. Talal Al-Harbi. Patrick Bowden. Claire Eggleston. Merrick Erickson. Jackson Feiner. Spencer Haug. Christian Hogan. Matthew Huber. Jeremy Huther. Cole Jorgensen. Mitchell Klein. Clinton Colbeck. Wyatt Kraus. Kinsey Kurtenbach. Eric Luyenga. Alex Marks. Bishesh Manandar. Mohammed Rishard Mohammed Ramiz. Ibrahim Mahmoud Mohsen. Christopher Nwako Gabara. Cody Reed. Trevor Reinish. Samuel Reski. Tedrick Schaffer. Neil Schlemgen. Christian Schweigert. El Hussein Mohash Shota. Daniel Schultz. Cole Sullivan. Abdul Molsen Takroni. Wesley Vanderpool. Mason Walker. Andrew Waterman. Derek Winia. Joshua Zwinger. Ali Abdulaziz Al-Qater. Andrew Bell. Ambabayara Bold. Anthony Fulkerson. Nathan Gujisberg. Exararian Hinshaw. Tyler Knutson. Robert Moline. Yasuf Maghat Makadim Almari. Jaskarit Singh. Matthew Strum. Nicole Zazula.
Thank you, Dean Brown. John Killefer, Dean of the College of Agriculture and Biological Sciences, will recognize the graduates of that college.
President Dunn, the following graduates of the College of Agriculture and Biological Sciences are prepared to make successful contributions to their chosen professions in the agriculture and biological sciences, vital to the well-being of the state, nation, and world.
Michaela Adams. Nathan Adrian. Emily Anderson. Kirsten Anderson. Paige Anderson. Matthew Arnold. Brady Ayers. Rebecca Bader. Bennett Baker. Alex Bacher. Olivia Bartel. Catherine Beckfeld. Hallie Becking. Aaron Bagalka. Andrew Berg. Braden Berger. Kelly Berger. Sydney Bierman. Cassie Binger. Paige Binger. Caleb Blaisdell. Kendra Bucker. Jaden Borboom. Maddie Boomgarden. Tucker Bower. Austin Bauer. Aaron Bramstedt. Grant Brass. Andrew Brigel. Justin Brown. Anthony Buechler. Brianna Buseman. Landon Bushong. Elaine Busey. Rebecca Cantwell. Alana Caron. Lucas Ching. Micah Cho. Kyle Christopher. Jordan Clark. Tyler Clayton. Andrea Collins. Jordan Kuhn. Hattie Kramer. Eric Danielson. Austin Davis. Brian Davis. Landon Davis. Kilby Dean. Michael Duke. Allison Durheim. Courtney Ibes. Cody Eichman. Tyler Enderson. Josephine Eli. Benjamin Andres. Seth Ingen. Naomi England. Adam Iral. Kristen Erf. Derek Evans. Annalise Favorite. Kara Fink. Jamie Fisher. John Fitzgerald, Abigail Fullenkamp, Matthew Funk, Michael Garrett, Douglas Fiedler, Cody Geary, Blaine Geppert, Colin Geppert, Kylie Geppert, Sydney Getschman, Grace Giersvik, Brianne Gober, Robert Getz, Cameron Goodrich, Nicholas Gortmaker, Caitlin Grabel, Ian Grassel, Paige Gravenhoff, Joshua Green, Danielle Grunweg, Caitlin Groch, Morgan Grunsky, Aaron Gubbles, Madison Jives, Catherine Haska, Caitlin Hall, Nicholas Hamill, Nicole Hamilton, Dustin Harold, Austin Heiser, Gavin Held, Hannah Hartman, Anna Hemingway, J.C. Hermstad, Bailey Hill, Jordan Hill, Rayla Hines, Lydia Height, George Herricks, Nicholas Hofer, Trenton Hofer, Russell Hoffman, Marcus Huncharenko, Cody Hoyes, Tobin Hulsnitz, Thomas Howe, Jack Huther, Kyle Hunt, Ty Iverson, Carly Jackson, Benjamin Jacobs, Austin Jansen, Jessica Jasper, Megan Jensen, Colin Johnson, Dylan Johnson, Graham Johnson, Kyler Johnson, Logan Johnson, Samuel Johnson, Trent Johnson, Jacob Kaiser, Joseph Kalina, Dalton Campson, Sienna Campson, Sterling Kappas, Angelica Casper, Lindsay Kaufman, Drew Kinney, Hayden Kirkhart, Austin Kestelut, Nathan Knutson, Brent Klingenberg, Hunter Klontz, David Koser, Seth Kranz, Nathan Krog, Kirby Krogstad, Bailey Krupa, Holly Kruger, Timothy Kruger, Natalie Kunai, Matthew Kunith, Connor Langerman, Elise Klinsman, Dylan Lisi, Rebecca Letty, Mercedes Lemke, Alan Lenhart, Kylie Lessman, Bridget Lazinski, Adam Menderfeld, Leslie Mason, Mackenzie Mattern, Brock Mock, Kyla Mock, Tyler McAllister, Bailey McKay, Robert McLean, Mark Meeland, Zachary Melcher, Matthew Metzger, Trace Meyer, Jaden Mickelson, Shelby Mickey, Ashley Miller, Brock Miller, Hayden Miller, Michaela Moe, Clara Moeller, Colin Moeller, Lane Meyer, Dennison Nelson, Haley Newman, Kaylee Knowles, Danielle Olson, Cade Ophiam, Matt Otto, Alyssa Parker, Zachary Paulson, Laura Pelzel, Callie Phillip, Jace Phillipson, Tyler Piper, Sean Pinkert, Trenton Plott, Andrew Plantine, Cassius Pond, Alexander Portner, Sarah Potoff, Braden Ron, Gregory Reeter, Shelby Riddle, Morgan Reeson, Jade Roberts, Johanna Rowe, Tucker Royker, Brooke Rugelstad, Haley Rogich, Mary Rosenhammer, Jennifer Rollick, Andrew Roth, Riley Rubel, William Runge, Zachary Saylor, Jonathan Schlechter, Craig Schlichner, Kendra Schaefer, Brady Schmidt, Lexi Schmidt, Casey Schniedermeyer, Evan Schnitzler, Sarah Schoen, Alexis Chevalier, Mitchell Schrepfer, Jordan Schurman, Derek Schultz, Samuel Schumacher, Nicole Seidel, Andrea Sievertson, Niall Skogerbo, sorry, Sydney Sleep, Joshua Sleeter, Dathan Schmerchek, Lisa Smith, Michaela Sousa, Audrey Souza, Robert Spears, Rachel Stancer Prokop, Andrew Steffel, Blake Stagenga, David Strain, Megan Stress, Jackson Sudbeck, Walker Sundstrom, Boaz Swift, Riley Talbot, Laura Tabrake, Alec Turka, Eric Turka, Alexander Thompson, Bailey Thompson, Brock Tilma, Megan Testian, Victor Testian, Seth Testurer, Maggie Vanderlaan. Dallas Vanderwall. Brittany Volkmer. Dalton Vroman. Ashley Wagon. Joshua Wagoner. Samantha Wagner. Alex Waldner. James Wall. Danica Weber. Mariah Weber. Jacob Wegg. Colin Wegner. Dylan Wersall. Janelle Wachern. Angela Wick. Blake Whidvey. Amanda Williams. Taylor Wolf. Caroline Woodhouse. Brady Woodring. Mariah Wright. Nathan Wright. Morgan Zaski. Jinhao Chow. Anjana Adhikari. David Aarons. Ryan Alley. Jared Anderson. Isaac Andrade. Josephine Odsmore. Cassandra Augst. Heidi Becker. Caitlin Bebout. Isaac Bennett. Riley Bergen. Victoria Bishop. Tristan Black. Lane Blasius. Brianna Bohm. Caitlin Brandt. Colin Bruns. Kyle Burdick. Connor Bushman. Kiana Cade. Christopher Callahan. Brady Carlberg. Ethan Case. Fending Cisse. Adam Day. Blake Dean. Jonah DeVries. Tanner Deemer. Thomas Dockin. Haley Dorman. Amanda Farr. Russell Felicia. Benjamin Feist. Ashton Fay. Alex Fonder. Levi Foss. Caitlin Frericks. Brandon Frick. Megan Garms. Alexander Georgiev. Victor Georgiev. Bushka Haika. Rebecca Glanzer. Heidi Havala. Dane Hegdahl. Kason Heyer. Kate Heintzman. Kaylee Henderson. Madison Hope. Allison Hurley. Alexandra Jennings. Cortland Young. Logan Jurens. Laura Kelm. Kendall Jones. James Kirsting. Kayol Katri. Jordan Kimball. Charles King. Caleb Krangenbring. Sarah Kruger. Christina Laska. Anna Latza. Sarah Lehman. Jordan Little. Zachary Lospike. Caitlin Luigi. Alexander Mackey. Mallory Malachek. Matthew Manning. Chidi Martins. Hunter Matthew. Austin McLemore. Caleb McKinley. Haley Meckels. Lindsay Myers. Connor Messman. Kevin Mills. Brittany Moeller. Kristen Moore. Amy Munsterman. Macy Morin. Peter Nasby. Audra Meyer. Abby Nisler. Kathleen Olson. Tiffany Paul. Dylan Peterson. Kelsey Peterson. Caitlin Pekarsky. Emily Polin. Mackenzie Popkin. Isaiah Porteous. Joshua Prohaska. Calvin Rezick. Kendra Rolfson. Victoria Poole. Joshua Rosenbaum. Mitchell Sabers. Zachary Sackett. Abigail Shower. Megan Schenk. Anthony Schneider. Joseph Sherban. Isaac Smith. Danielle Steffo. Lucas Strong. Madeline Stubbs. Gabrielle Suda. Kelly Setko. Jennifer Swanstrom. Emily Toring. Haley Turani. Austin Van Alsalt. Christy Vanderwall. Jacob Von Bergen. Taylor Walters. Cassidy Weathers. Samuel Weber. Kelsey Westad. Tanner Wetzel. Alec Williams. Landon Withrow. Trevor Wabshall. Anna Wolz. Jared Wallman. Tristan Wormstedt. Andrea Zavadil. Rachel Bacco. Eli Custer. Justin Jones. Kelwin Knobloch. Kaylin Knotts. Cassandra Schuster. Rusty Swanson. Levi Vanderlaan. Cole Voorhees. Ryan Voss. And Jonathan Weiss. As part of true Jackrabbit celebration, please join the symphonic band in the playing of Yellow and Blue, South Dakota State's alma mater, and Ring the Bell, our fight song. Words can be found on page 50 of your program.
And now we've come to the central moment of these ceremonies. If you've not already done so, graduates, I invite each of you to move the tassel on your cap from the right to the left, showing that you are officially graduates of South Dakota State University. Thank you all for coming this morning. It's been a real pleasure for me to preside at this 132nd commencement celebration. Graduates, you have now earned your degree. You have realized your dream. Let your imagination help you pursue an exciting future, and may your time as a jackrabbit serve you well on your road ahead. The 2018 commencement ceremony for South Dakota State University is now adjourned. Congratulations.